Alright, Ukraine went to the Kursk Oblast with one more big assault. It is happening not far away from Totkina, actually in the village itself. From what we know so far, that Ukraine managed to break through the Russian defense lines, which were very heavy fortified in this particular spot. And yes, you may say that before Ukraine established the control over this area of the Kursk region, it happened roughly 8 months ago, maybe 9. But here is the natural obstacle. It is called same river. That's why Ukraine started the assault from one more direction. Is this attack in general successful for Ukraine? Well, yes and no. Well, first of all, why this attack at the first stage was successful for Ukraine. The second stage is apt to be started, by the way. So here you can see the video filmed from the Russian command center. Somewhere in the Kursk Oblast, here we have the drone operator or camera gimbal operator, who definitely films the Ukrainian engineering equipment, which clears the way for Ukrainian forces to pass through the Russian even Dragon Ts. The engineering vehicle also clears the path through the minefields. So we may 100% state that Ukraine broke through the Russian fortified defense line, which is the good news. The bad news that Russians were not caught off guard, and actually in a modern day war it's impossible to caught your enemy off guard because surveillance drones are absolutely everywhere. They see your move on your controlled territory. It means that Russians knew that Ukraine was apt to breach their defense, and they sent some of the reinforcements, FPV drones, to eliminate the threat for them. Guys, here I want to share my thanks to the Patreon supporters. You're doing awesome job, and guys, if you want to support the job that I do almost daily on YouTube, please also support me on Patreon, because by doing so you help me a lot. And here comes the second part of the video, that this equipment was definitely stopped by the Russian FPV drones. There was the EVAC all-terrain vehicle which arrived to take Ukrainian crew, but there was not enough place for everyone. And unfortunately, at least 2 of the crew members of that engineering vehicle were unalived by FPV. Well, later on, Ukraine tried to send some of the armored vehicles to the bottleneck that was created by the engineering machine. However, Russians were waiting for this move, and Ukrainian armored vehicle was stopped by FPV once again. It basically means that the first stage of this operation was planned very well, but the second one, connected to evacuation of the crew and expanding the achieved result, is failure. We'll see if Ukraine tries to go to the same direction today, because there is the breach in the Russian defense, but at the same time we know that Russians are alerted already. They send their drone units, more reinforcements, so they expect Ukraine to attack in the same place. And by the way, we have clarification from the Mykov 73 source. I highly recommend you to check it out. So attack happened in Novy Put, actually far away from Totkina itself. So all of the images filmed before were coming from this side. However, we also have the confirmation that Ukraine tries to get Totkina from Ruzhivka direction. And according to one more clarification, Ukraine tries to breach defense not far away from Totkina in this area. So it's the multiple vector coordinated strike by Ukrainian armed forces. And unfortunately here Ukraine also lost vehicle. Well, this Ukrainian tactics in Totkina direction actually reminds me of what was happening not long time ago in Belgorod Oblast, not far away from Davydovka, where Ukraine breached the Russian defense using engineering equipment, but immediately sent light armored vehicles plus tanks. Ukraine went to Davydovka, taking this village under control, but now was forced to retreat from it. And for the first couple of days, Ukraine lost lots of the equipment and infantry forces there with this attack. And just yesterday, Ukraine did the similar stuff in Totkina. Well, maybe the idea for Ukrainian army is to deflect the attention of the Russian one, for them not to concentrate their forces going to Sumy, for example, to strike from this direction, and to disperse the Russian forces elsewhere to the sides, to the Belgorod region and also to the Totkina district of Kursk. But what everyone sees, that even well-planned attack operations always bring more losses, way more, compared to just staying in defense. And you just cannot send your tanks up front. First of all, you need to send the engineering equipment to clear the way. And how to cover that equipment, that's the other story. Drones matter a lot in a modern-day war, and if some side decides to achieve some success, even local one, it comes with severe losses. The Russian military leadership and the Russian side in general, they don't care about their losses, but for Ukraine, well, it's too much, I guess. because after all, Ukrainians as society, they value human life way more compared to the Russian society, and Ukraine simply doesn't have that huge population as Russia. And yeah, no matter how big your population is, the planning, I guess, with this operation in Totkina should have been done in better way. For example, evacuation transport all-terrain vehicle was very small to accommodate every crew member, and that brought losses. And vehicle, well, you can build the new one, but human lives unreplaceable. Well, nevertheless, Ukrainian General Command Staff has reported about the successful operation of Ukrainian assault towards the Kursk Oblast, so successful hit, they say, but I wouldn't say so 100%. Yeah, the first stage was successful, but later on, Ukrainian forces for now were repelled with losses. Alright, here we have the clarification of the successful hit which Ukrainian command mentioned before. They speak about the strike on the Russian drone control command center, also in Totkina region. They mentioned that Russia lost 20 of the army personnel. Most of those are drone operators. But still we don't have like the real evidence, some of the drone camera videos and so on, so I'm still waiting. And now my friends, a very short but important break. I ask you to press the like to this video and also subscribe, because you help YouTube algorithms to boost it all over the place. I already checked it out, it works perfectly, especially with your subscriptions while you're watching this video, so thank you for your great support. But at the same time, we have good news coming from Lysivka village, that's the Pokrovsk direction. This is the Pokrovsk city, Ukrainian front lines. There Ukraine went on counteroffensive. The strike happened last night and Russians were forced to leave this street with many of the households, and now the only street which they control fully is basically over here. That's their only defense line, but Ukraine is able to hit Russians with many of the FPV drones. Here you can see it's the natural obstacle, a lake, and yeah, Russians are partially still over here, but they're cut from their main forces in this street. And you know, guys, I just came to a realization that we are speaking about this very low zoom-in scale of the front lines, streets, buildings, fields, tree lines. However, back in 2022, we were speaking about big cities, towns, oblasts, regions of Ukraine. So Russian army was having a huge advantage over Ukrainian one. And now the fight is going on for the part of the small village. So can you say that Russia is winning really? Honestly, guys, I don't think so, especially then Ukraine takes the ground in those small villages. And yeah, here Russians have two of the connections which they may use for supplement of their forces in this street, but if they're forced to retreat by Ukrainian further advancement, there will be just an open field, a good target for any sort of the drone. So still Ukraine keeps the initiative close to Pokrovsk. There are multiple of the counteroffensive operations. I just tried to draw the sun here probably, but yes, Ukraine uses Pokrovsk as the supply base for the army groups, but Russia tries to assault in Kurakhova direction, and they're very close to the border with Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. And yeah, here they move towards Katlarivka. They almost occupy the small village. Here you can see difficult terrain before reaching the border with other oblasts. But my friends, there is no like the wall staying there, just administrative border. But still, if Russians would go there, it would be a political win for Putin. That probably Putin is going to annex one more oblast of Ukraine. So he might spread some of the fear that Russia is successful, but Russia has political goals at first rather than military. Alright, one more big win for Ukraine, that Ukrainian drone operators managed to hit the Russian radar Zaslon. It is one of the most sophisticated radar systems Russia has ever managed to produce. It costs millions of rubles, but yeah, it was hit again by FPV. Why the hell the FPV was used? Because it means that this system was really close to the front lines. With this type of the surveillance, Russians managed to detect even small drones within the range of around 200 kilometers even, but now not any longer. Alright, we have some of the fresh Russian attack which happened a couple of days ago. Image has just been emerged. Yeah, you may see what happened to the Russian soldiers. That's the usual picture. Ukraine still has lots of the cluster munition and uses it a lot in artillery systems. There were the Russian attack using infantry, just infantry forces. Some of them were on motorcycles, some of them were just walking dead. Yeah, later on some of them tried to run away, but it was too late. And also Ukraine started to use aviation gliding bombs more massively, for example, even against some of the Russian armored vehicles. As it happened over here, sorry guys, I cannot show you all of the images coming. Usually I post those on my Telegram channel, and you may check it out in the video description. Here I have to censor my content. Sorry. Alright, it is Moscow again, my friends, for the second day consecutive. There's some of the kabooms. Some sort of the blue splash there, kind of non-standard. Commercial airports were closed, and Ukraine is basically sending signals to those leaders who are coming for Russian parade. It's better not to come. And there is even the risk for the Russian air defense to shut down some of the jets of the foreign leader, like they did already with Azerbaijani Airlines Embraer 190, which was flying to Grozny, Chechnya. Russians wanted to hit some of the drones, they didn't close the airspace, and they hit the commercial airliner. So imagine, for example, Xi Jinping is flying to Moscow, and at the same time there is the drone alert, also in Moscow. Will Russia's air traffic controllers coordinate everything? Will they put the airliner of the leader of the big country, which is the partner and supporter of Russia, to the holding pattern for 1 hour, 2 hours? Or would they let it go to attack area of Domodedovo? Because this is happening in Domodedovo, the place of one of the biggest Russian airports in Moscow region. Russians are just shocked, and I have tons of videos like that. I don't know why some of the leaders do not respect their own lives, taking absolutely huge risk visiting Putin. I wouldn't do that at all. And here you can see the preparation for the Russian victory day. Lots of the Russian police with those bulletproof shields, and they train to cover very important persons, you know, just in case. And that's the picture right now. This night, lots of the arrows show Ukrainian drones detected by Russian air defense. Yeah, definitely Ukraine intensified the strikes on Russia. Alright, yesterday there was some sort of the misunderstanding about the aircraft type on which Ukrainian pilots will train before getting F-16 type rating. Well, we are speaking about Czech-made L-39, which is good airplane for training. However, it is a little outdated. However, some of the media report about not L-39, but about JAS-39, which is Swedish-made Gripen. Well, later on it was clarified that it wasn't Gripen after all. Alright, something happened yesterday in Makhachkala city, Dagestan, Russian Federation. The unruly citizens started to pew-pew Russian police, and he was successful partially, because still the Russian police managed to zero this attacker with losses. And the Northern Caucasus region is really unstable there for Russia, and I predict that the Russian disintegration will start from Northern Caucasus. Alright, couple of words about the Ukrainian drone boats. This is the Magura drone boat with the air defense missile, and here this image was published by Russians. They show how they tried to stop the drone with a high maneuverable small boat. They have some of the guns installed there, and in a way these tactics could be more or less successful if you are very close to the drone, but in most of the cases it's very hard to spot those Ukrainian drones. Guys, there were also some of the political news, but I don't want to speak about those in every of my videos, because mostly it's the crazy stuff coming from the White House administration. And quoting Donald Trump every day, it's too much, guys. Even for me, it's too much. I'm becoming dumber with that. So today we're gonna take the break from Donald Trump and his nonsense. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. Also subscribe for the channel, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.